What's going on, everybody? It is Greg Adams, the coach, and welcome back to the Bounce Back Podcast. I really appreciate each and every one of you for joining me back here as we discuss the bounce back process, how to get your life back in position. But first, we're going to review what we talked about in the last podcast. Last time we were here, we talked about taking the leap. What's required of you to take that step ahead, that major step ahead to change your life, and what individuals close to you will do to make sure that you don't take that risk. And that perspective is coming from fear. So today we're going to talk about fear and the major fear of failure that we have that is prohibiting us to progress forward, to taking that leap, from changing your life. Now, the fear and the fear of failure is something that you can research anywhere, any book, any education program, any YouTube video. A lot of people have already discussed what fear of failure is. I've studied it a lot in my sports psychology classes in my undergrad and my graduate program. But for the most part, we know fear of failure stops a lot of people. Sometimes fear of failure elevates performance. And Michael Jordan specifically always talked about the fear of failure. But if fear of failure prohibits you, you're not ready to make the step to be successful. You're always going to be in the same spot. We already know that. And what people need to know is that failure is a necessary step to success. And if you let fear control you too much, that will prohibit you from making that next step, from taking that leap, from requiring you to make that change. I had this uncle that always had these crazy quotes and street lingo and rap that he would always tell us as kids, and it always stayed with me. And one of them is, if you're not failing, you're not trying. And if you're not failing, you're not going to be able to learn how to recover and make things better. You're always going to be in the same step. You're always going to operate within your comfort zone. And if you're operating within your comfort zone, you're not going to be able to reach out and reach the fruits of true labor. Now, for me, I've always operated outside of my comfort zone. I've always had jobs that I put myself out in the public sector, and my reputation was always on the line. And coaching does that. When you're standing on the sideline and you're pointing out what to do and making adjustments, and you have a seat or an arena or a gym full of people critiquing your performance and your ability to do something, that is putting your reputation on the line. And that's what I've done. Ever since I was 18 years old, I started coaching, and I've had parents in my ears and I've had players in my ears, and you have to manage that. If you've never worked in a job where your reputation was on the line in a public arena, then you don't understand what pressure is. You don't understand what not caring about fear of failure is all about. Now, some of you guys may work in the corporate sector where you are a manager or you're a boss or you're a director. And that is similar, where you're putting your reputation on the line each and every day, and your performance is being evaluated in a public arena for the most part, but is evaluated in a group setting. That is true pressure. Individuals like that don't have a fear of failure. They want to succeed, and they're willing to put their reputation on the line each and every day. The big takeaway from that is, when you fail, or if you fail, what it teaches you how to learn from your mistakes. If you fail here, what you do is you fail, you learn, you reapply. Now, starting your business or making your change, taking that leap, you have to understand that failure is a part of that process, and you have to embrace it. When you go forward and you take that leap, you have to have the belief that whatever you're undertaking, whatever you're doing, is going to work. But failure will be a part of that process. Now, starting your own business, and my predicament, you're always going to have in the back of your head, what if no one hires me? What if no one likes me? But in the forefront of your mind, you got to believe that, man, I am doing this and this is going to work. What if too many people come? What if I have too many clients? When I operated my business or when I was starting it, I was operating it on not what if no one comes. I'm going, what is my plan for having too many clients? Now, if you take what I'm doing today, take this podcast that I'm doing. No one is begging me to do this podcast. No one has hired me to do this podcast. No one talked to me about doing it, but what they always told me is that I'm a good public speaker. And I've always done public speaking. You know, when as a coach, you're speaking in public. And I've even got involved in speaking competitions where I have won a few. I will brag about myself on that with the Toastmaster International program. And I won a few impromptu speaking contests. And a lot of these people involved in these say, hey, you need to be speaking in public. You need to be recording yourself. You need to put out content. And that's what I'm doing. Now, what if no one listens to this content? I really don't care. I'm operating on the idea that maybe there's someone out there that needs to hear this message. Maybe there's someone out there that this message is important to. As I'm recording this, I only have a few subscribers to this program. This is podcast number 4. But what would happen in a year if I stayed with this consistent effort? What would happen in 2 years? You know what's going to happen in 2 years? I'm going to have Bounce Back the book out and published because this message resonated with a few people. That's just my belief. Maybe it's going to happen in 1 year, depending on how much effort that I put into this. But this is what we're going to do. So today, I'm going to get right into this message. And I wanted to share the message about the process of going homeless, the process of going all in. And I want to clear something up related to that. To be homeless, it is a word that if you told somebody that you're homeless, it means that you're destitute. That means that you have a major problem. You don't have a roof over your head, that you're living on the street, that you may be living in shelters, that you may have a mental condition, a drug condition, that you're completely down and out, that you don't have family, no one to depend on. That is what people may think about when they think of homelessness. But all homelessness is that you don't have a roof over your head. You don't have a house. So when I tell people that I was homeless for a certain period of time, I don't say it because I want people to feel for me. And I don't want them to get the picture in their head that I was destitute, that I had a mental condition, that I had a traumatic event in my life that caused this, that I was living on the street or living in shelters. That wasn't my condition. I was houseless. And it was a decision that I made for myself. I put myself in that position to make sure I can get to another level because I needed to make a major change in my life. It was what I could afford, and it was the necessary step that I had to take. If I didn't make that decision, I would not be here today recording this podcast, giving this message to the people. So the step to become houseless and homeless is basically a minimalization or a minimalism philosophy. You take yourself completely down and strip away what you have in order to propel yourself up to the next level. So it's basically taking 2 steps back. Was it a fun experience? Hell no. It was not a fun experience. And I'm going to talk about what that experience was. Not having a home to go to. Not having family to go to, not having people and friends to live with, not having a comfy and cozy environment that I can lay my head down and realize that I have succeeded in a certain level. I'm going all the way backwards. So the place that I lived, the place that I call my home was a Ford Explorer SUV. It was about 10 years old. It was completely paid off. I had bought it when I was an assistant coach at San Jose State University. This car I eventually sold when I purchased a new car, and this car was my home. I had it was a sentimental object in my life. I had problems selling it. I wanted to keep it because it was my home. It was the place that I call home for about 6 months. This car was silver, and it had a second row that I can fold all the way back and lie into. And I had sleeping bags and I had pillows and all of the sleeping materials that I need in the back of this thing, rolled up and folded up so I can fit other things for my training business inside of it. The best thing about it is that the windows were tinted all the way around. So if you wanted to look inside, you couldn't really see what was on the inside of that thing. I mean, you would have to put your hands and cup them around your eyes to look to see what was in there. So it was almost the best situation to protect myself at night while I'm sleeping in this vehicle. Fortunately, I had an SUV in order to live. Now, if I had like a sedan or a coupe where I would have to sleep in the back seat of a car, then I don't know if I would actually have made it. I would have probably tried to figure something else out. But the beautiful thing was I can lay all the way back and stretch out. Now, I just had enough room to get my legs and my head in there. So this was my home. But when you're going through the process of seeing if you can make it, if this is going to work for you, because a lot of Americans are actually doing this. More people than you know are living in their car. But too many people are living in their car for far too long, and they're not improving their situation. But what you have to do is when you strip yourself down to that point, you have to figure out how to get your needs met. Now, I'm talking about showers, how to go to the bathroom, where are you going to wash your face and brush your teeth? How are you going to eat? And do you have somewhere to eat in your vehicle? Do you have somewhere to keep all your food supplies? So now that I have this Ford Explorer to live in, I had to find a safe place to park it. There are a lot of things that went through my mind on where to park. Do I park in a dark area? Do I park in a place that has a lot of vehicles? Do I park in a place that has just a few vehicles? Do I park in a place that's well lit? Will I attract attention to myself? One area that I found that was very, very good to me, it was very good to me, I almost owe them a debt, is a hotel parking lot. And the reason why this hotel parking lot was important was because it had lighting, but it wasn't overly lit. On most days, it had a significant crowd. So on the weekends, obviously, there would be a lot of vehicles parked in this parking lot. On some days during the week, there wouldn't be that many people parked in the parking lot. So to have my vehicle there wouldn't attract a lot of attention. The next significant thing that it had was internet. I traveled a lot prior to this, obviously being a basketball coach. I traveled a ton, so I knew some hotels had an open internet access and some had an internet access that was restricted. You would have to input your room number or you would have to put your name in order to get that internet access. I found a hotel that had an open internet access. And I had an iPad and, of course, a smartphone, and I would connect to their internet. This allowed me to watch movies lying in the back. This allowed me to keep up on news. This allowed me a lot of great flexibility. I believe I had my laptop back there, so I can work on my laptop at night or early in the morning on their internet access. The next thing is it was fairly secure because it was off the freeway, kind of tucked in the back. And the reason why I found it was because the next important thing, I had a storage locker at what they call public storage here in Southern California. That storage also had a restroom. So one of the predicaments that I had was when I'm sleeping in the hotel or in the back of the hotel, sometimes I didn't get access to their restroom. Now at the public storage, sometimes they locked it once the gates closed and locked for the evening, so I couldn't get access to that restroom. A major problem that I had then was how do I go to the restroom in the middle of the night? And many times I had to either hold it, I had to go behind the trash can in the hotel parking lot, or I had to wait for a hotel patron to unlock the back door and sneak in. The problem with the last option is if I did that too many times, would I attract attention to myself being parked back there for 5 months? So I didn't do that unless it was a complete emergency. So I would sneak out and hopefully not get locked out of my car, which was my house. And most of the time I went to the restroom behind the trash can. But that's just one of the issues that I had. But I overcame it, right? Now, the public storage restroom allowed me an opportunity to wake up in the morning, which I would normally get up very early because I didn't want to sleep in till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And the new hotel shift comes in and they keep seeing this car there. So I would wake up fairly early in the morning to get to work or get to the gym and start my day. Now, the public storage restroom allowed me a place to brush my teeth and wash my face. And if I didn't do it then, I would go to the gym that I was working in and wash my face and brush my teeth. And I would try to get there early before anyone else got there. Again, this position that I was in, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to judge me on it. I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I tried to avoid people seeing me in that position. I tried to avoid people seeing me pulling out sleeping bags and pulling out toothbrushes. I wanted them to feel that I had my situation in life in order because these are the people hiring me to give them guidance in their life. How can I give guidance? How can I give support when I am in a position of need, when I am homeless? Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is showers, because I don't want you to think that I was out there funky in the back of my car. I made sure I got a shower. Now, did I get a shower every day? No. Now, since I was going into the fitness industry, a lot of gyms have showers. Now, I was working as an independent trainer, so the gyms that I worked in didn't have showers. They had bathrooms, but they weren't big enough to have showers. And that was the one thing that I wish that they had, because that would have helped out tremendously. The one thing that I did was bought myself a membership to the 24-hour fitness gym, and they had showers. Now, I don't like to work out in those big box gyms, but I know they had lockers and showers and all those things. So I would keep a backpack that I could use to take into the 24-hour fitness when I needed a shower. And I believe at that particular time I got in on a deal where it was $9 a month and you had complete access to the gym. Now, also, you can use the gym to just relax. You can get your workout in, but it was a place to relax. They had televisions. They had all those things that can keep me connected to the world. Because a lot of times if you live in your car or if you are really homeless, you lose connection to the world. So the gym membership provided me an opportunity to get clean, to keep myself connected to the world, a place to work out, and a place to relax. Now, feeding myself was a major process. I'm not an individual who eats out a lot. Even when I had a home, even when I was in good financial situations, I always like to prepare my meals. Am I a professional chef by any means? Heck no. I'm not a very patient eater. In fact, I just like to cook the basics and feed myself and get it done. I'm not trying to draw out the process and cut up vegetables and chunks and put it in there and make it look nice. I just want to cook the food, eat it, and move on to the next thing. So I call myself an impatient eater. Creating a budget was important. As I started to build clients along the way, I started to get money, but of course I'm saving a majority of it so I can bring my family back. Now, this is how I ate. I'm going to talk about this process. The first thing I decided to do was buy a $29 hibachi grill at Target. Now, I had to have that grill in the back of my car or put into my storage when it was time to cook and prepare meals. And I had to have a bag of charcoal with me to fire that grill up. Now, that thing was very small. I could cook only a certain amount of food on it, but I carried that thing in my car when I needed it. I would go to the grocery store on Sundays. I would buy several packages of strip steak, a package of chicken breast or chicken tenderloins. I would buy a bag of brown rice and sausage. So it would be, I think they were Farmer John's or whatever, the U sausage link. And I didn't eat a lot of pork, so I would buy the beef sausage. And that was my treat That was the meat that had the most fat in it, that had the most flavor and taste. In the back of my car, I had a bag full of food utensils. So I would have spoons, plastic spoons, forks, and knives. I would have salt, seasoned salt, which I put on everything, even to this day. Montreal steak seasoning, and napkins and plates. I had plates that I had, they weren't paper plates, they were plastic plates, and I would wash them in the bathroom of the park that I prepared my food. So I would take my grill to this park in Costa Mesa. In this park there was a lot of homeless people there. I mean, real homeless people, people that were on the streets, and they would live in this park. They would be in their sleeping bags all over. They had grills there, but I didn't like to clean the grills that they had at the park. So I brought my little low standing barbecue grill. I would prepare all my food, grill everything right in there in the park. And then I would cut it up and I would put them in containers. And then those containers went into a cooler. It was a red cooler about 2 feet by 3 feet wide. And I'm bad on measurements, so if I gave you too big of an idea of what the cooler was, I'm sorry. So I will put the food in the containers, and then I will put the containers in the cooler. And that was my food for the week. If I ran out of food, that was it for the week. I mean, that was it. So I would carry these, I would drive around with this cooler in the back full of food. Now you're probably thinking, how did you keep that food from spoiling? Well, first of all, I would cover it and I would make sure I parked in a place where the sun didn't beat directly on it. The next thing, I would borrow ice from hotel ice makers. And I probably owe a lot of hotels ice at this particular point in my life. And I'll probably go pay it back at some point. But I would drive by certain hotels that I knew, that I picked out, that I knew their ice maker sat outside. And I even had the ice scooper that I borrowed from one of the hotels back in the cooler. So all I had to do was drive up to where the cooler was, scoop the ice, drop it in the container, and that would be my refrigeration. And I did that every day. And every day I had to pour out the excess water out into the street somewhere. And most times, there were a few times that the ice melted and the water elevated too high and it got inside the container and ruined the meat. But you remember, that was my food for the week. So I just emptied out that container. The chicken was full of, the chicken breast was full of water, and I had to empty out the water and then keep that chicken breast and eat it. That was my food for the week, man. That's how I survived. Now, how did I heat the food, you ask? I would have the brown rice, which was the microwavable kind, the brown rice, and I would take whatever it was, I would cut it up and I would put it in a container. I would say, all right, I'm going to eat one strip steak, a couple pieces of sausage, and a half a chicken breast with my brown rice. And I would go into this gas station. They had a commercial microwave. And I used this gas station like for everything. I would go in there. I would buy my gas there, obviously. And I used it for the bathroom to go to before I went to my parking spot at the hotel. And I used the commercial microwave. These people saw me almost every day that I was homeless. Every day that I lived in my car. Their microwave heated the food so hot in 30 seconds that I didn't have to stay in there very long. But I would put that thing in there. I don't know what I got after that. This is like complete nuking of the food. So I would take my food, cut it up, put it in the package because I had put it in a container, a small container, and then I would take it in the gas station. I would wave at them. Can I use your microwave? They, of course, would say, sure. I think after a certain amount of time, they were just like, yeah, whatever. Heat it, take it out, season it, get back in the car, and go to my hotel parking lot. And that's how I ate. And if you know me today, that's pretty much how I eat today. I would prepare my food. I eat the same type of foods all the time. And these food items were actually very good for me because, I'm not only getting in the best shape of my life because I have a lot of time on my hands and I'm trying to build my business and I'm trying to network. So my body is showing that I am a trainer. This was the best condition I've ever been in physically. But this food was actually the best food for me. Not eating out, not consuming excess food, not consuming a lot of carbohydrates, and eating a lot of protein was very good for my body. It actually worked out. And I'm going to tell you guys, eating when you're poor, focusing on eating properly was probably one of the best things for me. So I continue to eat this way now. I eat a lot of brown rice. I eat a lot of strip steak. I eat a lot of chicken, and that's how I got into the habit of cooking for myself. And I don't eat out a lot today. And I damn sure didn't eat out at all when I was out living in my car. If I did, it was a treat. Or if I went, I would buy rice from the Chinese restaurant because I didn't want to cook up the brown rice. I maybe got tired of it. So there weren't a lot of treats. Did I eat veggies? Yeah, I would have to eat the veggies out of the microwave pack. So that was kind of like a treat, but it was hard to store that and keep that fresh all the time. I don't like microwavable veggies, so I like to keep them fresh. But it's difficult because you can't cook them on the grill, and I didn't have a place to heat up water and boil them or anything like that or steam them. So we talked about truly minimalizing yourself. Do you have to go homeless? Do you have to get a mailbox at the UPS store to deliver your mail? Do you have to find places to shower? Do you have to steal internet accesses from hotel? Do you have to use the bathroom outside of a car? Do you have to brush your teeth at the public storage? Do you have to prepare your food at the gas station? No. But if you want to get to a certain level in your life, if you want to take a gamble, if you want to take a risk, you want to take that leap, but you want to keep the same condition that you're in, I guarantee you the process to getting there will be very long. I didn't want to be out living in that car for very long. And if I got to a comfort position, I knew that the process would take longer. The funny thing is, when you get to that position, so say you go homeless, it's like when you go to the grocery store with your children. You go to an aisle and you're the adult. You can only see at a certain height, or your perspective is completely different than your children. And obviously it's done by design. Grocery stores do this. They place the sugary, unhealthy items at the child's eye level. And at your eye level, you can only see a certain amount of food product. Now your child will tug at your leg and pick out something from their eye level or their perspective and show it to you and say, "Mommy, Daddy, can I have this?" And you're like, what is that? What? Okay. Oh, it's a bag of suckers. All right. What? You didn't see the bag of suckers from where you were, but from their perspective, they can see it. That's the same thing as when I lived in my car. I saw so many homeless people. I made relationships and friendships with homeless people. I saw people who lived in their car, and I never would have identified them as people who lived in their car, but I saw families. I saw old, elderly men. I saw women who lived in their cars. In fact, there was a guy that at the public storage facility that I used and I rented out a storage space, there was a gentleman who lived in his old Cadillac. I want to say this Cadillac was a 1970s something Cadillac. It was yellow. And this guy lived in his car. And I remember seeing him one time in a park that I was sitting in between training sessions. And I said, "Oh, this guy's always in this car." And then one night I saw him behind the storage facility. And what I realized was this guy that was his safe haven. That's where he chose to park his vehicle. Just like I chose to park my vehicle behind the hotel, he decided to park his vehicle in the public storage parking lot. Now, this parking lot was gated. It was behind the gate, and the gates would lock, I believe, at 9 p.m. And they would reopen at 6 a.m. So if he safely got his car behind that public storage parking lot, he would be in the safe zone. No one would be able to come in and get him. So that was where he found his safe haven. And believe it or not, to this day, I still see that gentleman. I still see him in the same condition, in the same car, in the same public storage locker, or the same public storage parking lot. And it blows my mind, because why is he still in that position, and why did I make it out of my position? And the reason why is I decided to take a leap. I got aggressive. I built up my reputation. I presented myself as what I wanted to do. I believed myself. I did not fear failure. And I got out of my comfort zone. Maybe that's not what he decided to do. But it's amazing when your perspective changes, just like that child in the aisle where he's low and he can see only a certain thing. I could see only a certain thing. I could see only a certain group of people, a group of people that I would never had common contact with had I not been in my position, had I not been in that perspective. But I did not let that discourage me. I did not let that intimidate me. The entire time I knew that this was the right thing to do. And one of the things that you could do to mess it up fast is by self-medicating, getting into depression, using alcohol, or partying when you don't have a reason to party. Alcohol never touched my lips. I never used or consumed drugs. I never felt depressed about my situation. And I knew for a fact that this was the right decision to make. And it taught me a lot. It taught me how far I can actually go down if I didn't get my situation in order. So it really propelled me. I really learned from it, and I value the experience that I had. And I'm glad that I'm able to share this experience with you. Now, we're going to wrap this up. Again, coming in the next few podcasts, I'm going to invite some people to interview now. I want this podcast to be more interactive, not just me speaking. But I am glad that I started this process, and I want you guys to subscribe to this podcast. It is available on iTunes, on Google Play, and I will be creating a YouTube page specifically for this. I want to thank you again for joining me on the Bounce Back, the podcast, and we will see you again. Peace.